Welcome back on Good Morning Artesia. We have headed back over to Artesia Animal Clinic. And if it doesn't look familiar to you, if you're watching this program online, obviously if you're listening on the radio, it doesn't sound any different. But if you're watching this interview and you're saying Artesia Animal Clinic, that can't be right. That's a nice looking, spacious lobby. You have started the process of moving into your brand new building, and I know you and your staff are really proud of what this potential for this new facility.
Yes, a lot more room, a lot nicer. Well, it's new, and so we'll be able to do more for our clients.
How much square footage did you wind up building here?
I don't know if I can rightly tell you that. All I know is that we will have tripled our size.
Wow.
From what we were before.
Yeah.
The new building is exactly double of what the older building was. And we're still using the older building. We're just remodeling it.
I was going to ask you that the day we're recording this, you've got construction crews. All the walls are in the process of being replaced. So, what will the old building be used for?
Administration.
Okay.
And training and break room.
So, were you able? Because not only do you do small animals, but you also do large animals, horses and cows and stuff like that. Did you change any of the facility to accommodate that part of your practice?
No, that will come in the future. So that will get upgraded because there's just things over time we need to make some changes on. Mm-hmm. So once we get this all finished with next spring, we'll start looking at that.
All right. And tell us a little bit about some of the new features of the building. You've got your treatment rooms. Do you have what are some of the other additions or updates that you've made to your facility?
A lot larger, more open treatment area. We do have some cages, kennel areas for large breed, like your Danes, your Mastiffs, things along that line, which we did not have in the past. Those have been great and haven't had any issues with the dogs. I mean, they have room they can stretch out rather than putting them in a cage. Larger kennel area on that for when we need to, keep a dog or a cat. And then a larger surgery room with 2 surgery tables now. So, as we add to our doctor's staff, that doesn't slow us down when we're doing surgery.
Sure. And, of course, medicines, chemicals have always been a part of veterinary practice. Do you have more room for that, lab facilities now?
Yes. In fact, we have a designated lab room. So that's great. And the lab area just is a highlight. I love it.
Well, that is fantastic, and we'll through the video we'll probably insert some pictures and do that. Well, as we're recording this, we're not that far from the holiday season, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and we always like to have Dr. Young on to talk about that because while people get all excited for Thanksgiving dinner and the turkey and the stuffing and the breaking of the wishbone and all that other fun stuff, pets get excited too, but there's some things that pets should probably not have fed to them or have access to during the holidays.
You want to avoid, I think, number 1, high-fat foods. I'm not going to say you can't give a little piece of turkey to your dog. If my kids were watching, they would say, hypocrite. My dog just stares at me. It just, and then it's mind control. Mm-hmm. But high-fat foods is what's going to get into pancreatitis and get you in trouble, Other one is bones, chicken bones, turkey bones. Those are not the best because, they're soft. They can splinter. But I'd say the biggest thing is high fat. The gravies, the skins, things along that line. That's probably the number 1 thing to avoid.
Yeah. Because it's real easy to just sneak a little piece or take the plate, hey, look, my plate's clean, and you got to be careful what's on that plate before you do something like that. And the dog is going to go to everybody.
Yeah, they're not dumb. I mean, they know how to play the game,
Yeah.
I'd say ideally it's probably best if they didn't, but I mean, I think the deal is you have to. Are people going to do this? Yes, they're going to do that. I think you just have to be very careful.
Right.
If you're going to give them a piece of turkey, it needs to be very lean. Same way if it's, let's say you don't want to have turkey, you know, it just needs to be very lean.
Okay. Ham or something like that. What about sweet?
Avoid ham just because pork products are too high in fat,
Okay.
and the pancreas is going to have trouble.
Maybe we should eat like our dogs, and that might be better for us. What about sweets and candies? Those always make their appearance. Pumpkin pies, things like that.
I'd avoid that. Yes, sweet, any of that. Now, the big problem with pumpkin pie is going to be sugar, you know. So if the dog likes pumpkin, give him canned pumpkin, not pumpkin pie.
Right.
On that one.
And chocolate is a no-no.
Yeah, I won't open that one. People freak out over if the word chocolate shows up, and we've done a very good job about pushing that across. In reality, Baker's chocolate is the big boy. You'd have to get a lot more of your Hershey's bars or things like that. Interesting enough, brownies, that one really gets the phone calls at night. But brownies, unless you handmade them with real chocolate, brownies use an ester, a chemical that tastes like chocolate. So there's really not that much, you know. But do not go telling your husband that Dr. Young said you can feed your dog brownies or chocolate. I'm not saying that. I'm just trying to.
Yeah.
And a lot of dogs, if they really get into it and eat a lot, they turn around and vomit, you know.
Yeah. Well, in the case of one of our dachshunds, they got into the canister with the foil wrapped chocolate balls and kisses and stuff, and the dog was fine. But cleaning up the yard was quite interesting for the next few days. It made it a lot easier to find.
Be glad it was in the yard, because I have had those phone calls. There's little wrappers all over the house, and it does not smell very good. Yes.
No, that's a good thing. Dogs also some dogs get stressed out. I mean, if they have you have family over for the holidays, and there are people that the dogs are not comfortable with or familiar with, what are some things that people should probably think about doing to help the pets in that type of a stressful situation?
One, if you suspect your pet, you need to go to your veterinarian and talk about that. They do make some non-narcotic items nowadays for anxiety. I'm not one to encouraging mixing different dogs that don't know each other. And you're asking for problems there. Little dog's going to pick a fight. Big dog's going to kick the little dog's tail.
You're going to get a phone call.
Yes, I'm going to get a phone call. Yes.
Yeah. So just think about that. They'll be fine. They love everybody. Unless you've had time with the pets to acclimate to each other, you don't necessarily know that.
Exactly. And if you throw the food into the mix, then you got a big problem.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. I've seen some stories where marijuana now is more and more popular. It's now being legalized in many states, like here in New Mexico. And now we're reading stories where curious pets are getting into some of the people stashes of stuff. What do people need to be concerned about that aspect of things?
Well, it's not just marijuana or CBD or anything like that. It's anything of a medicinal nature needs to be totally out of the reach of your pet, and up high in somewhere that they can't, you know. And dogs don't have opposable thumbs unless your dog is really good enough to open a cabinet. But
Right.
but leaving stuff down, you're running risk of the liver's probably the number one target on that. I have seen and had calls where they got into CBD, which is not supposed to have the ingredient that causes you to get high, but this dog's feeling pretty well, pretty good, and there's no antidote for that. They're gonna have to sleep that off, and that you treat symptomatically for the issues you're seeing at the time.
Okay. But that's with your heart medications, your aspirins, anything like that that is people medication should not be available for pets.
Exactly.
So
Things that do thyroid can get them. I mean, thyroid's probably going to be one of the least, but your endocrine type things, anything with hormones, birth control pills, all of those things, they just need to be way up out of the way.
yeah. So think about that, and then again, if you've got if you're visiting folks, or maybe folks that have heart medication, older folks, other people like that. When those family members are coming over to your house or you're going over to their house with the pets, just make sure all of that stuff is up and out of the way. If a pet does seem to get a reaction from Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner foods or from a medication, what obviously you want them to call, but what would be some things that they should do at first while they're waiting to see exactly what the dog may have gotten into or what they may be dealing with?
That depends on what they got into. There are some things you do not want to induce vomiting, but if you suspected pretty quick they ate a whole bunch of ibuprofen or things have seen that, then you need to induce vomiting with peroxide, and you just need to make them chug it until they get sick as a dog. No pun intended.
Sick as a human. I mean, sick as a dog.
You're right.
So it really does kind of depend on what it is. Like you said, some things you want to induce the vomiting, some that shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, if you could read the back, it'll tell you poison control says you should not induce vomiting with this. And they'll have reasons. A good example would be bleach. Something that's caustic, that's going to go down, you don't want it going back up on there. But I think the majority of things that veterinarians get calls on is going to be things like they got into the pain medicine, or they got into the hormone medicine, things along that line. That one right off the bat, if you know they did it, and you don't want to wait an hour or two because it's already getting broke down, is you make him get it out of his stomach.
So those types of instructions that apply to humans, whether it's induced vomiting or whatever, those would also apply to pets as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Because if we see them in time, we've had 2 cases of rat poison ingestion. That's another one that you'll see is, if it's quick enough, we induce vomiting and get it out of the system. And then it kind of depends on what you're seeing, what the dog's got into as far as your next course of action.
So take notes. So I guess the good advice is if you're traveling or you have people coming over, make sure you don't have the rat poison laying around. Make sure all the pills are put up and all these other types of precautions, especially if you know that pets are going to be introduced into the situation.
Particularly if you don't have pets and they're bringing pets.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're going to be very curious.
Yeah. And if you don't have pets, you don't think about those kinds of things.
No.
And so all of a sudden you got to think, all right, Grandma's bringing her little Fluffy. We need a Fluffy-proof the house right now.
That's good advice.
Well, that's great. Again, congratulations on this new facility. I know you're still moving in and getting things set. Hopefully you'll have an open house at some point in the future, but I'm sure you wouldn't mind if folks just kind of pop their head in the door and say, hey, what does it look like in here now?
Not at all. Probably around the first of the year, after we get through the holidays, we'll probably have a Sunday afternoon. People come by.
Okay. Might even have to cook some hot dogs, but I don't know if we should call them hot dogs. That might not sound good at a vet clinic, And what are you having? Hot dogs.
I have seen hot dogs before.
Well, that's great. Well, it's a beautiful facility. Congratulations to you and your staff on getting this done, and we look forward to coming back and visiting again real soon.
Thank you.
Dr. Larry Young from Artesia Animal Clinic, and we'll be right back.